So,
Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. I do hope you're having a good day. It is another day, another podcast. I believe this is podcast number 14, I'm going to say. And I'm glad to be accompanied on this occasion by David McQueen, who is inspirational speaker, executive coach, professional facilitator, and more. Sir, please do tell us some of your life story, please.
okay. Well, thank you for inviting me on here. Real pleasure to be able to talk to you and your audience. So, life story. Oh my gosh, the real quick one. The son of two Caribbean expats. I don't say immigrants because they were expats. They were asked to come here. Mm-hmm. So Caribbean expats grew up mostly in northwest London. Mm-hmm. I am married to a beautiful woman and the father of two amazing daughters. In terms of my quick kind of like career journey, I'm sure you'll ask me later, but I'll give you the quick summary here. Started off my first kind of like career in finance and accounting. Migrated over there into IT and technology, and then for the last 15 or so years, I've been working specifically around training and development, around communication, leadership, and all things that emanate out of that. Is that a nice kind of like summary?
Yeah, it's a good summary. Yeah, like you know what, I've heard worse, I've seen worse, but hey, this is a good summary. Like
good.
Excellent. Yeah. You say you started in account work. What was the sort of transition from that to basically becoming an international speaker? How did you make that transition?
So the main thing is that I like systems. So whether it's around the way that things work, specifically around business or what have you, or if it's just people, I like that. And one of the things I realized is when I was in finance, I was asked quite a lot by my bosses at the time to either host conferences, to speak at events, sometimes to speak on their behalf, especially for those who didn't like to do it because they knew that I just loved doing it anyway. And I often found out that I was being called upon to explain complex stuff to individuals as well, especially in finance, people who didn't understand accounting and finance. And then when I moved into IT, it was more or less the same. I was still getting asked by organizations to speak again and to do things like project management and explain complex issues to people who didn't understand the technology or the processes. And then when I decided that I want to go out on my own, I realized there were a lot of things that people kept on asking me for around careers, around communication, and what have you. And I decided to take the leap and worked initially. Quite a lot of my work was done in schools and colleges because I just really thought a young generation needs to be able to communicate and learn how important communication is going forward. But then, as I said, on my journey, there was a lot of stuff I just kept on getting pulled back into the corporate space. And so I'd say for about the last 5 or 6 years, a lot of my work has been around leadership development and how to get individuals to communicate better as leaders. So it all started more or less in those careers where people realized I could speak. People realized that I wasn't afraid of conflict. People realized that I had skills to communicate some ideas, and I think it's just followed me through every single career that I've had.
Excellent. So what was it like when you first did your first, how can I say, your first sort of like speaking engagement?
Well, I'll say about the first professional one. So I've been speaking since I was a kid. So I grew up in church, and you had to speak. There was no way around it. When you were told by the elders and other people that you had to go and speak, you had to do it. And what I loved about that, I loved doing it anyway, but it gave an extra sense of confidence when you were able to go and do that. But then when I was in the position where I was able to do it professionally, I realized sometimes I'd stand in front of an audience and I would explain some concepts or ideas or experiences about careers or about presentation and communications or about leadership, and people would literally lap it up. So I remember one of my first gigs I got paid and I went in and people were just, notepads were out and people were making loads and loads of notes and I was like, oh, this is yes. And to be fair, even with the first time, I just wanted to give everybody all the information I had. I wanted everybody to just be a brilliant communicator. And then I realized people only take it in bite-sized chunks. So you can give them digestible amounts and move it forward. But when I first did it, it was amazing. And then once I got the bug, there was no looking back.
Excellent. So it was just a case of you went in deep end and you found yourself in your natural rhythm, your natural groove, and it took
Yes.
it forward from there. Like,
Yeah.
did you do a number of engagements straight away, or was it a case of you did it that once and then you had to wait for some time to sort of step back into it?
So it was a combination. So there were some when I around the time when I first started my company, I had the opportunity to be a part of a TV show on Channel 4 where I was helping young people around the country just to find out exactly what they wanted to do with their lives. As with all these things comes a wave of publicity, and people want to be able to get a piece of you and see exactly what you're doing. So I was able to build up quite an interesting stack of opportunities to go and speak. But then, once you're in there, you realize that wave of publicity only lasts for a little while. You have to go out and you've got to sell. You've got to be able to convince people that you're worth it. So the initial bit was primarily around that publicity. But then after that, myself and my wife, who worked together, we basically had to build together what we had as a sales plan, and then just go out there, hammer and tongs, and just tell people, right, this is the guy who you need. You need me to speak here. Just book me, and I'll come along and do the work.
I imagine that was a lot of how can I say a lot of knocking on the door, like, hey, do you need someone to speak at your event? Do you need to speak at your event? I can imagine at the beginning there was many engagement you most probably did for free just to get the exposure until present day, I would imagine.
So, to be fair, from the get go, I didn't. From the moment I knew that I could get paid, I didn't want to. I didn't want to do anything for free again.
That's my time.
Right, I'll do funerals for free, but otherwise that I realized that there was a structure around it. So yes, to be fair, there were certain platforms, and I always say this sometimes when I'm coaching people who want to go into speaking, whilst essentially if you're going to position yourself as a professional speaker, you should get paid. There are going to be some spaces and platforms that you can go onto where you can, and I'm going to use a term very loosely, sell from the stage. So rather than go at the back of the room and buy my £3,000 course, not that kind of sell from the stage, but more where you start to talk about the work you do, the organizations you've worked with, the stuff that you've researched, and the experiences that you've had, so that people in the audience will be really intrigued and go, I'd love to be able to come and work with you. Is that possible? So there was what I would say there was a real intentional way of being able to position yourself on the stage, and then being able to know that there are conversations you were going to have afterwards where people will email you or LinkedIn or what have you. But I tend not to do the ones I do for free. I'm very, very selective about, and I made sure I was quite intentional about that from the beginning.
Okay. I understand.
Free and exposure doesn't pay bills or put food in your cupboard. So
I know how. I understand that well. No problem. With that, you did speaking on one hand, and then now coaching as well. How long have you been doing the coaching side of things? And you mentioned coaching, basically coaching people as speakers. Is that the only side of the coaching, or is there more to it?
There's more. So primarily I position myself as a leadership coach. So there are people who will come to me for speaking, but I feel the speaking is part of the leadership coaching that I get. So there are, again, it comes down to more than anything else, it comes down to how do we communicate. So when I'm working with leaders, it could be around how the internal dialogue they may be having around, am I good enough to be in this job? How do I make sure I ramp up my performance? How do I communicate to my team that I'm the authority or somebody that they need to follow? Or how do I make sure for myself I manage my own time so that I don't get burnout or I don't get anxiety or whatever it is, do that. As well as being able to say to individuals, right, you've got a high stakes pitch or sales or other kind of presentation that you need to make. These are the kind of formulas that you need to have it in place. How do I make sure I stand on stage? What's the content I put together? How do I structure it? What are the stories or anecdotes that I can use? Should I use humor? Should I leave it alone? What about my pausing? What about my posture? All these kind of things are put together just to coach people so that they can present as best. And what it was is when I was doing the speaking, which is obviously the keynotes, so those the keynotes are more your 60 to 90 minute hour presentations. And when I extended that to doing the workshops, which is the longer, half day or full day training or even more, what I realized is even when I was doing that with bigger audiences, there were still people who wanted a one-to-one. So yes, you can go and stand in front of an audience, do 2,500 people, and somebody goes, "Oh, do you run training sessions?" And you go, "Yeah, I run training sessions." And then you may be in a room of 20 odd people, and then in that 20 odd people, then you go, two people go, "Do you know what? This is really good, and I need to go even deeper." And then it goes down to one or two. So for me, like the model and the way that I work is, generally speaking, I use my speaking more as a marketing tool to tell people exactly what it is.
Okay.
And then any of the training and the consulting and the coaching that comes afterwards usually tends to be as a result of either me speaking live to individuals or podcasts that I do like this, or my own, or vlogs and video appearances. Just another way of building up interest in what I do.
Understood. And with with regards to sort of in the realm of podcasts, I did a little bit of research. I see you been hosting a podcast by yourself.
Yes.
For the last, is it about 2.5 years or so?
Yeah. So I had a little bit of a hiatus. I've been stacking up a couple of series. So it was originally called the David McQueen Show, and I thought, oh man, that's so egotistical, man. Let me change it. And I think I just copied a lot of Americans that did something similar, where you can go and search a name, and And now I've kind of the new series. What I've done is I've rebranded it as Leadership Decoded, because that's what I do. I get a lot of leads just to decode how they communicate, and then obviously code it back out again. And I have hosted some others as well. So I've worked with other corporations and organizations to internally host their podcasts. And I love it. I think, again, like this, it's just a great way where two people or more like ourselves can sit down, have a really good conversation. Somebody could be on a commute or just sitting at home and looking to kind of develop their specific skill or learn from other people's experiences. And this medium, I think, has obviously blown up over the last few years. Has been an amazing way just to reach people who probably normally wouldn't reach in a global scale. And I love doing it.
Excellent. And with regards to your podcast, how many people have you actually sort of interviewed? Who's been one of your most interesting guests, would you say?
So in the current one that I have is, for my personal one, is a combination of both insights and interviews. So there are going to be some things where I will come along and I will do what I do when I'm a coach, and I'll talk about my experiences and how I help individuals to take it to the next level. But there have been others as well. So I had one of my mentors was on there, a guy called Liam Black. He was the CEO at one point in time of 15, which is Jamie Oliver's former restaurant, which he helped with. People who have been on the wrong end of the criminal justice system and come out and we're looking to obviously
you see, you give that little look there. That's
And there have been some others. I'm trying to think of the lady's name that has gone from me, but she runs a network called The Dots. It'll come back to me. Really, the name will come back to me. But there are a couple of people that I've done historically, but I've now, with the new series, I've got about 4 or 5 people, and I don't want to do the famous people because I look at a lot of the, especially when I look at a lot of the more popular podcasts that are out there, especially US or UK based. It always seems to be these interviews with the celebrities and these A-lister kind of individuals in business and what have you. But the reality is, for most of us, whilst that's really aspirational, what does it really mean in our day-to-day when we're not doing that? If you're not running a multi-million-pound company and running an Amazon, Facebook, or one of those larger organizations, what does it really look on the ground when you're trying to develop your leadership skills? So I avoid all the big, massive names, and I tend to kind of go for individuals who may have touch points. Again, as I said, my mentor, Liam, who worked at 15, and a couple of others. But I want it to be that when individuals access the podcast, they can go and say, okay, I understand that, and I can relate to that, and that's absolutely fine with me. It's not somebody who's going to be this celebrity who's miles away and I can't reach, that kind of thing. It's, and get all kinds of imposter on the way there. It's just, for me, it's just ordinary people having ordinary conversations about how they can do the extraordinary. Ooh, that should be my strapline.
There you go. The way you're saying that, it's just basically, when someone's been ultra successful, you miss it's like overnight success. You miss the first 10 years. You don't really sort of see that path, how they got there. If if you had Kevin Hart, for instance, to see the journey from the beginning, sort of middle, and where he is today, the really interesting stuff, for me, and I think for many others, would be the sort of, how did you get that start? How did you get moving? What sort of motivated you in the beginning? When, like, okay, when it's more faith-based rather than reality-based, because it's one of those things where you can go, yeah, I'm going to be the greatest comedian, I'm going to be the greatest athlete, I'm going to be the greatest business person, when everything in seems against you, and sort of building upon that and building upon that to sort of work that journey away to where they are present day.
Yes, yeah. And just being real, just keeping it real.
Absolutely. Excellent. With like, if you had like, if someone came up to you and asked you for sort of three sort of key things to make themselves like better, like what sort of tips would you give them?
Oh wow! Other than plastic surgery.
Well, you know what? Like, well,
I'm being facetious.
well, that's
if I was to go through the three things, I think the first one is to know self. And what that means is by being able to get a sense of what your values are and what it is that you stand for. What are the things that you won't compromise on? Because there are individuals who will look out at, again, as we were talking about earlier, the individuals who are famous or who had some modicum of success, and they will never know what that value system is. But for me, more than anything else, part of your success is knowing who you are and where you're going to go to. So knowing what those values are, what your boundaries are, the things you won't compromise on, the people who you want around you, I think that number one, that's important. The second thing for me is about your health. And very often individuals, when they talk about success, don't talk about health enough. So I'm not just talking about your physical health, I'm talking about your mental well-being as well. How do you survive? How do you keep a journal? How do you stay motivated? How do you create habits that allow you to be healthy? Whether it's, you don't have to go to the gym, it might be that you just walk, or it might be that you get up in the morning and you meditate, and if you're a religious person, you may pray. Whatever those things or routines are that make sure that you stay in good well-being, so that you are mentally and physically in a good place. That for me is really important for around success. And then the third thing I would say is around who your squad is. So who's your squad? Who are the individuals around you who will support you? Who will be the individuals who will remind you of the service that you bring to this life? Who are the individuals who will help you when you're down? The individuals that will be your ride or dies that will actually support you. Because when you are looking to kind of, achieve some kind of modicum success, whether be it professional or personal, whichever kind of area it is in, for me, it's so critical to have those individuals around you who will energize you and will help you to take you to the next level and remind you why you're doing it in the first place. So for me, those three is know thyself, keep well and keep fit, and know who your squad is, your people, your ride or dies, or your people you're going to have around you. That, for me, personally, is essentially the kit that I have, and I would always, if I'm sat down with somebody to have that discussion, that's what I will always recommend.
Excellent. So, with regards to know thyself,
yes.
How long has it, how many years has it taken you to sort of go from where you are, where you went then, to now? I know you mentioned you talked in church as a kid, but it's a case of, let's be honest, most of us are not the sharpest tools as kids when we look back upon what we were thinking about and what our life sort of values were, if you get what I mean, upon reflection.
So, your question is about when I realized it for myself, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm really honest with you, I think I'm still realizing it. There are, there are certain changes that happened for me. Again, as I said, I grew up in church. I'm no longer religious per se, but my value system is still the same.
Right.
It really is about there is if there's one thing I learned growing, I grew up as a Christian. If there's one thing I learned and I really loved, it was love your fellow man as you love yourself. So in order to be able to, or woman, so being able to have a sense of self-respect and being able to be kind. So whilst my journey consistently changes, so there are certain things and certain beliefs around the way I view the world that has changed over the years. I think my values really is about respect, integrity, honesty, reliability. All those things have stayed the same. And there are times, like I talk, I think quite recently, of some of the stuff that has happened in the last 2 years in the country here, you know, around Brexit, for example, or Meghan and Harry going, you know, to the country. And I've listened to some individuals around me, you know, I say the wider, not the inner circle, because you can't be in my inner circle with that, but in the wider circle, listening to some conversations, and I'm like, really? Is that what you're thinking? And what it's made me really kind of think about is, look, I'm not, I don't have an issue with people having a different point of view, and that's absolutely fine. But there has to be an alignment with the individuals who I want around me. So I have a different point of view, but when we are so diametrically opposed, why is it that I would want you around me if we don't think the same? If and again, I'm giving you this example. If you think that somebody like me would stand up and say, look, at the end of the day, as a minority in the UK, there are experiences that I have that form my way of how I see the UK as a whole.
Yeah.
To respond to me and say, "Oh, you're playing the race card," or if you don't like it, go back to your own country, or this is not the way. And I hear that within my sphere. I'm like, we don't align. Okay, we just do not align, and I'm happy for you. You stay over there. I'm going to stay over there. I'll wait from the other side of the platform. And I guess through every single stage of the life journey, it is about, you're always discovering yourself. You're always discovering something new. I turned 50 last year, and one of the things I know, and I've got my big 50 badge here still on my desk. One of the
Happy
things
birthday.
One of the things that I recognize about that journey is how, if I saw the world the same way at 50 as I did when I was 40 or 30 or 20, where's the growth come? You know, there may be some pillars or values that I've always held dear, but what are the experiences that have shaped me and make me look differently? I'm the father of two, I would say, women. One's just about to turn 18, the other one's 22. You know, how I navigate the world with them as women now, as opposed to my little baby girls, is very different.
They're your baby girls.
It's always learning, and I think is always being able to recognize that nothing's really fixed, and to be open, but most importantly, just be kind. That thing for me will always drive me. Just be kind. You serve nothing or nobody. If you're going to be unkind, just be kind.
I hear you. No, I totally agree with that, because if you're not growing, if you're not changing, if you're not evolving, you are just basically stagnant. You are still, and basically, if you're the same person you were even a year ago, you're like, it's a case of you're not really sort of putting yourself through the challenges you need to do to make yourself grow. And eventually, if you don't do that, you'll just get left behind. And being left behind is, how can I say? It's not a place where anyone wants to be, and I think people sometimes fall back and they don't realize they have, and when they realize that, and then they go, "Oh, I've fallen back. Let me catch up, or let me start being aware again." I think that's when they start to get a little bit happier, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
So, with regard to health, what is like sort of the key things you would say you do for your health? Like either mentally or physically on, say, a day-to-day, a weekly basis.
So I love the habit, and I got this from my wife. I love the habit of journaling. So my wife has meticulously kept a journal for the best part of just over 22 years, probably. I've had notebooks, so I love to write down. I've got loads of notebooks, but you know, the last few years I've been a bit more particular whether I'm writing online in my own private journal or writing in a physical journal. And what I love about the journaling is it gets things out of your head. Because it's so easy to have those conversations and it's just in your head, and oh my God, and then you can't go to sleep and you lie down and you're up in an hour later because all this stuff is going on in your head. I found by putting pen to paper, it's been incredibly therapeutic and a real a healer, because you can pull that stuff out, and then obviously if you can't solve it on your own, then being able to go and talk to the individuals who you trust around you, being able to do that. I like to meditate as well, most mornings where possible. When I get up, I love to be able to spend at least the first 10 or 15 minutes just trying to meditate, clear my head. Usually before I open my eyes, because I know if I open my eyes, I'm probably going to lean over and pick up my iPad or my phone. So I like to do it with my eyes closed and just focus on my intentions for the day, my gratitude. I'm really grateful for what it is that I have, in terms of friends and family and the life that I'm able to live. And it gives me a sense of peace, and it gives me a sense of balance as well. I'm more of a walker than any other kind of exercise.
Okay.
I try to go to the gym with my wife, but I'm a germaphobe, and I don't like touching sweaty stuff. And I'm like, I can't. I'm happy for everybody who does, but I can't. And I need that hand gel and the spray. So unless it's just not for me. It's not one. I'm not at all. But I do like swimming. I do like swimming. It's up, every now and then when I get the opportunity to go there, go swimming, and I like, where possible, to have at least one massage a month, because I know that in the work that I do, I can get tension and I can get knots, and and the tension can build up in the lymph glands. And my masseur, she clears those lymph glands. So those are the kind of things that I do. And like this month, I'm doing Veganuary, so I've been a vegan for all of January. I'm very proud of myself. I think I had one scrambled egg one morning. I just couldn't be bothered to go and do anything else, and that was it.
Shame, sir. For shame, sir.
For shame. But otherwise than that, it's been really good. I drink with moderation, and so yeah, just kind of like, especially now that I'm older. I can tell you, man, you just got to look after that body, because the metabolism's a lot slower and life can be hard on you. So yeah.
All I've got to say is, you're looking very good. Very good for being 50. Like, hey, I would have said you were younger. So that's a good thing. That is a good thing.
Thank you. Even if you got to 49, I would have been flattered, man. So that's all good.
You was like 40. Yes, come out. Yes, it's a good day. It's a good day.
Yeah.
One of my best mates. He, how can I say? He has been a transitioning vegan for I want to say for the last 3 years. Now he sort of made the final leap. Where he was just having chicken, I would say maximum on stuff. Now he's gone all in. His missus, his two daughters, the whole family's totally vegan. It's one of those things which is kind of a surprise when I have seen him happily destroy a beef burger in the past with no mercy, with a smile on his face. But he's made the transition, and he's been happier for it, for sure. For me, I understand the walking for meditation purposes and stuff like that. I do like jogging, if you get what I mean.
Okay, good.
Totally by myself, by my thoughts. Maybe a audio book to keep me company. But
yeah. Totally hear that.
With regards to your ride and die, your crew. Who are the members of the crew, and how long did it take to assemble the crew you've got now? I know, with every team, it's one of those things. It always evolves and changes. But how did you get them together?
It's coming like Avengers Assemble now.
Oh yeah, I was thinking that.
So I've. Two of my best friends have been my best friends since my oldest friend has been my best friend since we were 6, I'm going to say. So that's 44 odd years. And one of my other best friend, since we were 16. And they know me more than anybody else in the world. They know exactly how I operate. So that's kind of like, those are the individuals, other than my family, who are and I say my wife and my kids, who are in my inner circle. And then outside of that, I have, in varying degrees, I have people who have basically shown me that they're trustworthy. I've had individuals who I thought were trustworthy in the past, and then I found out they weren't. And so we swiftly ended that one and moved on. But others were able to demonstrate that they were trustworthy, and I was able to show them the same. And what I mean by trustworthy are individuals who are not afraid to tell you the truth. They're not gonna try and soften things up just to make you feel better. They're just going to tell you exactly how it is. And so sometimes it's trial and error. I think the universe has a way of making you cross paths with individuals who align in terms of energy and in terms of values and in terms of the way that you live. And some are seasonal. Some friends are supposed to be there for a couple of weeks where you're good. Some for a couple of months. Some for years. And you just kind of look at that and realize, some. I remember last year I was saying to my wife and a couple of people that There were some friends that just came to some friendships that came to their natural conclusion, and that was okay. I'm absolutely fine with that. But the individuals who are in what I call my inner circle or my squad, they've been there for a while. They know me. They've seen me transition from the kind of young boy that I was to the man that I am now. And I'm happy with that. I don't need to have much, but as long as I have the ones who are around me who are not afraid to tell me and are not afraid to challenge me, I'm really happy with that.
Excellent. No, loving that. Yes, building a team. Always important. It's always to have like a good crew around you, because the times when you're down on your knee and you're like basically you look to your why, and sometimes that why sometimes isn't like, it gets fuzzy or a little bit distant, to help pick you up, help regain that focus. Always important, I would always say.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
What inspired you to do this? What inspired you to do the podcast?
What inspired me to do the podcast? Basically, last year turned 45, and like I've always been a person to say to people, like, yeah, you should do a podcast, you should do a YouTube channel, start a blog. Always like going, do this, do that, do this, and it's a case of one, put my money where my mouth is. Like, if I'm saying this to someone, like, please, like, it's like, what are you doing? Okay, I'm getting this done. Two, it's one of those things. I need to still constantly grow, and as you get older, it's harder to meet new people, and to sort of put yourself into that sort of position where, in some regards, it can be uncomfortable. Like setting up, picking up new skills, learning how to use Skype and OBS in partnership is one of those things, and then like getting out to people and like going, yes, would you like to be on the podcast? Would you like to be in the podcast? Would you like to be in the podcast? So it's a case of help me grow a little bit more, and free. I'm having fun with it so far. It's been a real education, and I'm looking forward to when I can say, I've spoken to my 500th guest on the podcast down the way. Like, it's early doors, and as for guests on the podcast, you are guest number 2, who I haven't known personally. So
good to expand.
So it's just a case of bit by bit, day by day. I'm just like, trying to make some inroads in. Thankfully, talking does come naturally to me, but I've still got so much to learn. Right now, as you hear me speak and everything like this, God knows where I'm going to be and how good I'll be down the road.
Okay. Good. Thank you. It's good. Interesting to know. Good.
But yes, there's a lot to do, a lot of work to come. It's going to be a busy 2020. Yes. One of the things with in the realms of sort of business, I've been sort of paying attention to audiobooks which feature businesses and companies coming on the come up. One of my favorite books from last year was Shoe Dogs, the Phil Knight story about Phil Knight, founder of Nike. And basically, the trials and tribulations of that guy coming up, just trying to how Nike was Blue Ribbon before it became Nike and everything like this. The people he met on the way, the sort of like the development and building of a team over, I think it was, I want to say, a 15-year period before they actually went public. Which, if you kind of look at today's sort of like companies, that is quite slow, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, you've got companies like I dare not say it, WeWorks, which tried to go public, and it was just nothing but smoke and mirrors, and that's why they are where they are today. But sort of people who brought in, like people from when he was working at PricewaterhouseCoopers who knew about accountancy, people he met on the way who started to develop more and more sort of new technology, like coming up with rather bizarre and crazy ideas. But yeah, it was just like all of this to just build to the mammoth it is today. It went up to, I believe, 1980. If they do a part 2 of that book where it sort of goes in the sort of up through the 80s up to present day, where it sort of really became like the juggernaut we know today, that would be interesting. I would be definitely interested to read that. So that was one of the books which really sort of point. What about yourself? What sort of books have been sort of like instrumental for yourself?
Well, the book I recommend to all my mentees or all the people that I mentor is The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. It's an old book. You can get it on audio or on printable from Amazon or other bookstores.
Yeah.
But I love the mindset behind it. I love the fact that you can, when you start to think about the possibilities, and for me, it's all about service. How can you serve other people? How can you make a dent in the universe? And that is the book that I always recommend to anybody who I mentor. I say to them, go away and read that book. And once you read it, come back and tell me exactly what you found from it that resonated for you. And I use it as a framework as to how people can think and take what they're doing going forward. So yeah, that's my book, definitely.
Excellent. No, that's very good. I have to say. Sorry about that. Another book. Do you know? Have you heard of David Goggins by any chance?
Yes, the super athlete, the super marathon runner.
Yes, the man, the legend, the machine. If you haven't read it, you should read "Can't Hurt Me." His book. It's very good. Yes. So with what is a professional facilitator? May I ask? What does that mean?
So, firstly, whenever you see professional in front of something, that just means they get paid for it.
Right.
Okay. Right. That's the main thing. There are people who will do so. If you see professional speaker, facilitator, trainer, etc., it's usually because they are going to get paid for the actual role that they are doing. So in terms of facilitation, what it means is that I get called in to either run workshop or work with the executive boards and what may be some really challenging things that people are going through. And I'll be brought on board to be able to facilitate that conversation and to help people to obviously get to an end result. So that is primarily what the facilitation is. It's either away days, boardrooms, doing workshops, but I'm that individual who stokes people into that position of learning and having better conversations about how they communicate.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, no problem at all. At this moment in time, I've got to say, you've answered a number of my questions today, which I really appreciate. We are, I believe, coming up to 40 minutes into the podcast at this present time. I really wish I had more questions. You have given me a world of information, which I really appreciate. I really appreciate your time you've taken out today. Where would people be able to find you, such as on your socials and stuff?
Yeah. So most people, if you just type in David McQueen, it'll probably take you to my website. It's davidmcqueen.co.uk. In terms of the conversations that I have around business, lots of people find me on LinkedIn. So I think it's linkedin.com/Mr. David McQueen. So I like to put Mr. in front of me so people can find out where I am. But yeah, generally speaking, if you go to my website and you click on there, any of the other social media platforms that I'm on, it'll be able to take you there to LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, etc. But yeah, David McQueen, type that in Google. I'm usually going to be the first result that you have in there, and then just click on my site and you'll be able to find me.
Excellent. I'll also put the links in the description down below on YouTube and wherever podcasts go out to, by all means. And we'll take care of it from there. But I like to say, thank you very much today. I look forward to doing this again in the future when I'm like just to sort of catch up on how you're going down the road of life and vice versa. And take things forward from there.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you very much, Boomer, for having me. I wish you the best and continued success with your podcast.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Hey.